What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Culture 316 podcast. I'm one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Nahisi.
Join with oh my god, I haven't done this in a while. What's up, guys? I missed like 2 episodes. It's your co-host Mo. How is everybody? Yo, why
It's
did
been
he leave like that?
I have no idea. I guess he disappeared.
My intro was that
Banks,
offensive.
he was just like, I'm out of here. Banks was joining with us. I think he's back now.
Did he change his
Yes,
name?
he joined the yes. His name is Beige KO. But that's been his name since he jumped on the feed. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 34, season 4 of the Culture 316 podcast. Speaking of which, we had our Survivor Series space this past week, and it was great per usual. So thank you to everyone who showed up to our Culture 316 space on Twitter. Our next one will be December 8th for NXT Deadline, which is the last WWE Premium Live event of the year. And then after that, I believe we will probably be doing something for AEW World's End. So be on the lookout for information pertaining to those two. As always, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts can be streamed, be sure to be sure to subscribe, be sure to give the show a 5 stars because that is how we are able to expand our audience. If you are listening or watching on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe per usual. A lot has been happening in the wrestling world pertaining to a favorite wrestler of these two lovely contributors slash host of mine. So we're not gonna waste any more time because this past week we saw WWE Survivor Series coming live from Chicago. Eventful to say the least. If you were on the space, you would know that there was a lot going on. But I wanted to kind of get everybody's kind of feedback on Survivor Series. How did you guys enjoy Survivor Series? How would you rate it? What were some of your standout moments? Go ahead. The floor is y'all's.
I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna give this shit like it was a 6 out of 10 for me
Mhm.
because I was bored as shit for most of the pay-per-view until the last match. And that's when
Mhm.
all the great surprises came in, the good sequences came in. I felt like when it came to like the women's war games, it wasn't bad, but to me, war games was the best in NXT with the women. And ever since it came to the main roster, it just hasn't given me that zing, that taste. They keep doing too much gimmicky shit,
Mhm.
like bringing in chairs and then not utilizing them. They're just throwing shit in the ring. That was annoying me. They all just kept running up, going on with the apron, throwing shit in there, and then not really like doing too much with it. I mean, they had a spot with the trash can. I'm pretty sure I saw Io do that shit already. So I'm like, okay, like what else? Like what else you gonna get me? Then there was a bunch of throwaway matches in the middle. Like I don't want to see the Miz wrestle every pay per view. I'm sorry, that shit gets boring. Zoe Starks, get her out. Get her out. She does nothing for me. But Rhea's ass carried the match. Whatever pants she was wearing, that shit was sitting nice and pretty. Yes, ma'am. But the main event is what carried the whole pay per view, and of course the surprise at the end. But I know you guys want to go into that. I'm gonna give that shit a 6 out of 10 and pass it to Banks. What do you think about it?
I'm weak.
Not Randall.
It is what it is. I guess. Ooh, Mike. I guess it's my turn. Um, I would give Survivor Series actually a solid 8. I didn't necessarily prefer the EO trash can spot. However, I liked the match. I think there were some good spots in there. And I also like the way that they booked the ending because I feel like there has been this growing tension between EO and Bailey. And I think that the ending of that match, I think, is going to point towards the eventual split between Bailey and the rest of Damage Control, right? Between Kyrie Sane coming back, Dakota kind of stepping into a role as a mouthpiece, which is something that Bailey was traditionally doing. Um, the writing seems to be on the wall that Bailey is going to be out of Damage Control, and that Damage Control is going to consist of probably Kyrie, Asuka, Io Sky, along with Dakota. And that's something I don't want to say is the best option, but I'm very interested to see how it looks because Dakota has been someone who WWE has been kind of teasing and trying to promote and push ever since NXT, but it always seemed like an injury kind of got in the way. So I'm very, very interested to see how she's going to be as a mouthpiece. Um, so there's that. The Gunter Miz match was cool. Rhea Zoe was cool. Um, but obviously, I think the main event was definitely um the most eventful part of the show without having to say too much about it. I will say though, I think that because of what happened after the match, people aren't talking about how perfectly executed Randy's return was. I don't think we've seen a return as well executed. They kept him in the back. He did not join his team. Um, there was even a Money in the Bank cash in tease, which is something that kind of has been teased here and there all throughout the course of Damien having that briefcase. So the fact that Ray was able to run down, almost give the briefcase over, and then we were able to see her reaction, I think perfectly led into Randy's return. And Randy was, I don't know what Randy was doing them 18 months, but bro look cut. Bro looks way bigger now than he did when yeah,
He has
right.
like
I
two
need to
more
know,
accents.
bro. I'm like, who is this man? He looked like Brock. He looked like tan Brock. I'm like, this isn't Randy. This ain't Randy. But I think him coming into the match when he did, um, it was fairly quick, fairly seamless, seemed to be pretty safe. You know what I mean? Like by the time he came into the match, I think the majority of the damage had been done, and it was just a matter of him having to pick up the pieces, do a nice little cute RKO from the top, and then the 1, 2, 3. But I also think that another thing that doesn't isn't talked about within that Survivor Series team is we saw the full display of the faces of Raw. Like I don't think that the babyface division or the babyface picture has been so strong, right? Between Seth, Cody, Jay, um, I'm missing a name, but between all those guys, I don't think that the babyface scene has been this strong in which we see five guys who we can, legitimately see as main eventers, as world champions, and they all resonate with the audience in their own kind of special way. So I think that, the main event was just a great display of the baby faces of Raw, great return for Randy, and then obviously that music at the end. Um, I'm not gonna get too much into that because that's gonna be the next segment, but
I
literally,
just, I just have a
Go ahead.
comment on though on two things. Okay, you mentioned Bailey way earlier. I understand what they're doing with the story, but my issue is that Bailey's booking has been shit. Like she's been taking L's and
Mm,
racking up L's for many, many months, and they would never do that to any of the other four horsewomen. So
mm-hmm.
to me, that just bothers me because just like I understand like she wants to put other people over, and you could. I feel like you could complete two tasks at once. I feel like you could make someone look good and then put over other stars, and it's just like why does she have to get stuck with the angle of having to take a bunch of L's back to back to back to back to back to put other people over and establish them? So that's one thing that irritated me about like the women's finish, but the ending with Randy, yes, we covered. He looks fucking great. One thing that I really loved, yes, he kept it safe, but it was more like he was like giving out cues almost.
Mm,
Like he was giving out cues of what they're gonna plot later on. And I like the fact that on commentary they were referencing a few things. Like as soon as like, him and Cody had that little connection and they tagged with each other for that one move, they brought up legacy. So now that
yeah.
obviously like puts like a plot there, like a little seed right there to where they could do anything with Randy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what they're gonna do with Cody in between then and now, but we all been like entertaining the idea of bringing Legacy back. Obviously, without
Right.
Ted, uh, was it Ted
Teddy Biasi
DiBiase?
Jr. Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yes,
DiBiase Jr.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. They could put someone else and still do that because Randy is a leader at the end of the day, But he did come back as a babyface. He could do
Mm-hmm.
something with Cody and be the reason why we get heel Cody finally. We all been waiting for a heel Cody. So that's
Very,
what
very
my
true.
brain was thinking. Those were the gears that was going through my head as soon as I saw that. I felt like they were planting little itty bitty seeds while also establishing his return. But as far as Punk goes, I know we're gonna get to the next topic. I just thought like the staggering of that is what saved the whole entire show because the whole thing was a snooze fest. If I would pay for my ticket, I would have been pissed. But seeing that
Mm.
ending and this the returns, that's what the whole pay per view was about. But we're
And
gonna
just
get into that.
I
Go
was going
ahead.
to say we're going to get into that to stagger off just a couple of statistics pertaining to Survivor Series. This is reported from WWE PR. This year's Survivor Series broke the all-time Survivor Series merchandise sales record, higher Survivor Series gate than previous year. Broke the gate record for WrestleMania 22, which was also held in Allstate Arena. Sponsorship revenue went up by 22% compared to the previous year. So I think that it's safe to say that Survivor Series 2023 was a success. Survivor words. But we want to hear what you guys have to think about Survivor Series 2023. Without further ado, though, we're going to get into the real thing, which is that at the end of Survivor Series 2023, the impossible happened. The biggest never say never moment easily in WWE history occurred because as the main event came to a close, as the logo popped up on the screen, Cult of Personality hits. And after 10 long years, CM Punk walked down a WWE aisle and has officially returned to WWE. Just to kind of continue on the stats thing before we get into it, it was reported that CM Punk's return was the most successful social media post in WWE history, highest view count of any WWE video, and he broke the record in under 60 hours. So that includes Logan Paul, that includes Bad Bunny, includes a whole different slew of other things, and that also means that CM Punk is now responsible for the most successful social media post in WWE and the most successful social media post in AEW. So without further ado, Punk is in WWE. How do we feel about this?
I'm just imagining Tony Khan somewhere just locked away at a crack house with a mountain of coke. Shaking, nervous, having panic attacks. Like he is shitting bricks now. Just because you lost two of your biggest stars. You lost Jade, and they haven't done nothing with Jade yet, and that's another trigger they're waiting to pull. But
Mm-hmm.
you just also got Punk. Punk is who established your brand. Like your brand wasn't shit. People was clowning on it and saying that it was like an indie show, a glorified indie show. Then Punk came in, people started paying attention. You might have stole a few WWE people away, and now it's just like you lost that person, and don't get me wrong, they got some great people over there in AEW, but you needed that star power. Y'all brought Edge over, and the ratings actually dropped. And this is coming from an Edge stand. I love me some Edge. Ain't shit happened with the ratings. None of the rate. Yo, why you lean towards the camera, Banks? Back up. Back up.
You know what I want to say, that's why.
What? What?
You know how I feel about your man.
Yeah. We're gonna get into that later, but let me finish my point. All right, let me finish my point.
Go ahead.
All right, because y'all, you couldn't do it with Edge. You thought you was doing something with him, and unfortunately, with what he performed in WWE prior to going to AEW, it almost depreciated him. Like it almost just lowered his value going over there, and it's just like it's not doing nothing for you. It's showing in the ratings, it's showing in the seats, it's showing in the tickets. They're not down and out, but they doing bad right now. So honestly, I'm not a Punk fan, but business is business. I'm pretty sure Triple H is saying "fuck this guy" and all that, whatever. You know, they exchanging words or whatever. But at the end of the day, business is business. And I'm pretty sure Punk was used to coming from somewhere with structure. WWE got that structure, but he also knows that he went somewhere else and proved that he's a draw. That's what matters the most: putting asses in seats. So I don't like him, but it's not a bad move to take Punk, or for Punk to take the job and come crawling back to a job that, yes, fired him on his wedding day. I understand it, but again, like if he still wants to be relevant in the wrestling business, which he is, this is a power move that helps both him and WWE. So, I still feel the way I feel about him. I still think he's a bitch. I still don't think that he changed. I'm sorry that I'm swearing, but
You
I
got
feel the way that I feel. I really believe the reason why he stayed away from him on the press conference was definitely because there is probably tension. There probably is exchange of words. He probably already knows that Punk likes to run his mouth, and he's like, "Yo, you're not about to pull another media scrum on my watch, on my territory, all right? They let you do
Mhm.
that clownery, that buffoonery over there. All right, like we're not doing that here. We're not. We're not." That being said, am I happy that he's back? I'm happy for what it does for the company. I'm not happy for him personally. It's fuck him every day over here. But I'm interested to see what they do now because there's a lot of feuds you could do with Punk. Especially we got Randy back, and again we got Jade. They're in trouble. Is all I gotta say. But I'm interested, and I feel like WrestleMania is going to be juicy. But I'm gonna pass it
Mhm.
over to Banks. What do you think about it?
CM Punk is the greatest white hope since Eminem. You got CM Punk
Why?
who made millions. Go ahead. You already know I'm putting over my guy.
Why?
Eminem, go ahead.
I like Eminem. Why do you have to do this to me?
Because they the great white hope. Larry Bird, Tony Hawk, Eminem, CM Punk in that order.
I don't want him in the same category. You could try somebody else. Pick somebody else.
Nah, look, but what you gotta think about this man just got cashed out for basically going AWOL in the company.
Whew.
They said he probably made $7-9 million from
Hmm.
AEW. I
That's
feel like this has been a
nuts.
plot for years. I feel like there's been a build up for years. He made $7-9 million. He talking about his arm hurt. He left. He talking about the Bucks of youth is corny, etc.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. Mm. Klarna? Yeah.
Better do them in
Not
stock. Better
Klarna.
figure it out.
No.
So we spend that 300. Not to boast and brag. And I understand that we Great Depression, but you better figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Work OT right now. It's a holiday.
That's a fact. This is good money making season. I
I work like
I normally don't say that I'm gonna cook, but I've been waiting since the end of Survivor Series for this particular moment. So I'm gonna cook. When we talk about CM Punk in AEW, I like to compare it to Kevin Durant on the Brooklyn Nets. You have this guy who is known, who is established, who has already gotten his rings, who goes to an organization that may not be as established or as known or as rooted in the business as they would like to be. But yet, Punk, like KD, kind of reaped all of the benefits from being the guy who was a established draw in an organization that may have not been as prominent as its competitors, right? And so we look at what MJF we look at what CM Punk was able to accomplish in AEW. He came in automatic draw. United Center was able to sell it out off of a rumor, right? Then he goes on, has a once in a lifetime segment with MJF, has a great feud with him, right? Now he ends up getting injured. Obviously, the situation with him and the Elite happened, brawl out, suspension the first time. He comes back, he wins, he brings with the real world championship. He does essentially has collision built around him. Then next thing you know, him and Jack Perry get into it, and then he's fired from there. And the minute that he's fired, it's automatic speculation, automatic rumors that him and WWE are in talks for him to sign there, for him to be there. Mind you, during the first suspension, Punk, and I kind of agree with Banks that this was always the plot because after suspension number one, where was he? He was backstage at Impact. He was backstage at WWE making amends, right? And now that he signed with WWE, one of the first rumors that came out was that Impact Wrestling offered him a cash offer, right? Offered him a big money offer, at least in the context of Impact. I don't know how much money that is. In the context of Impact, they offered him a big money contract. Now he goes to WWE. And one of the things that I was paying attention to, in addition to his return on Chicago, we knew that it was going to be electric if he showed up there. That's home for CM Punk. That's the Knicks in the Garden. That's the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. That like Punk in Chicago is undefeated, point blank, period. But I listened and I watched his promo the night afterwards. And everybody was expecting him to bury AEW. Everybody was expecting him to fire off a shot. He didn't mention one word. Not one word. And that was the best thing he could have ever done because a promo against him would have been promotion for them. He didn't mention the Young Bucks once. He didn't mention the Elite once, Hangman once. Now, it's safe to assume that they probably all signed non-disclosure agreements, agreeing that they wouldn't talk about it. But honestly, if I was Tony Khan, I would want Punk to say something about me. Because if Punk were to say something about me, that means that everybody's getting ready for Wednesday to see who's going to say what about Punk. And he didn't. He kept it about WWE. He said, I'm home. He said, I listened to the wise man, clearly a Paul Heyman reference. And not everybody's happy to see me. Clearly a Seth Rollins reference. So he planted two seeds for two potential feuds, and he got up out of there in 5 minutes plus. And now, in addition to that, in addition to the fact that he has the most successful social media post in WWE, the most successful social media post in AEW, his shirt just dropped on Saturday night. It's a top seller in WWEshop.com. But if you go to Pro Wrestling Tees, he's a top merch seller for AEW. Who you know gets fired and is still the biggest draw of their other company? What are we talking about here? What are we actually doing? And then everybody wants to say, shout out to Jack Perry, shout out to the Elite for what? Giving Hunter more money? Giving Vince McMahon more money? Giving WWE more money? Oh, but the vibes backstage are good. If vibes were about money, then the Brooklyn Nets would be NBA champions. Then the most adorable sports team you know will be winning. Vibes ain't money. Money is money. And you just gave your top draw to your competition. You're bugging out. What are you doing? And now Tony is focusing on the Continental Classic, which is cute and all, but all the people that was leaking all the information, Young Bucks is chilling with their family right now. Hangman, we don't know where he at. He's somewhere being a cowboy John Moxley with this all black when he's beefing with Swerve. Like you just gave away money is what happened. And there's like I get it, like not everybody is a fan of Punk and like you're entitled to that. But anytime you give the competition money, the last time a WWE competitor fumbled this badly, it was when Tony Schiavone went on Monday Nitro and told WCW fans that Mick Foley was about to win the WWE title. And right when they thought they had one up, you know what happened? Everybody switched over to Raw. Banks, what was you about to say? Go ahead, go ahead. Bet. I thought I thought you was about to say something, but yeah, like I get it, right? You want to have a good locker room. Was Punk the most palatable person? Probably not, right? He was controversial, but like Mo said, I don't want to say that CM Punk is AEW. CM Punk is the godfather of the revolution that built AEW. In 2011, when Bro had that pipe bomb and he was talking about Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling and how Vince McMahon shouldn't be having creative control. He was laying the foundation of the ideologies that would fuel uh, uh, fuel the revolution of a Bullet Club getting popular, which will lead to the Elite getting popular, which will lead to All In, which will lead to All Elite Wrestling. Everything that we love and we praise about AEW, Punk was laying the foundations of that in a promo that's at this point damn near 13 years old, and you give him up to WWE and you think you won. All right. All right.
Pride is you know what, pride to make you do some stupid stuff. Your ego will make you do stupid stuff. With Khan, I try to be a little soft on him, pause, because a lot of people like to gang up on dude, pause again. I think he's just, a product of fandom, being a marker, as people call it. And I
Mhm.
think the problem is with him is he's too invested emotionally into the business when he doesn't understand it's just a business. And that's fine to be a fan of any business that you're in because you got to have any type of passion, excuse me. But he doesn't know how to separate the two.
Mm.
And again, I feel bad for him. I do feel bad for him. Like the dude, I keep forgetting he's older than me, but I feel like he's like a kid. No disrespect to him because he's a grown man, but he's mindset of a kid. So I feel bad for him. But you gotta understand who he's going against, brother. And MJF ain't going nowhere. He might get MJF 5 to 10 mil.
I agree. I agree with that. I just think that this was and it was interesting. I mean, this is probably going to segue into the next topic, but it was interesting kind of like how the world received CM Punk versus what I think Tony Khan expected. Because I think Tony Khan thought, oh, people in AEW said that the vibes were bad, that he's in the locker room. So clearly, if he were to go to WWE, it wouldn't be a warm reception, right? Banks, you can attest to this. Mo, you can attest to this. For years, people would complain about Vince McMahon until cats got blue in the face. But if WWE was in your city and No Chance in Hell hit, you're singing that theme song bar for bar.
Oh yeah.
Bar
Yup.
for
Yup.
bar. So you need to understand, wrestling fans, AEW fans, WWE fans, Tony Khan, to anybody who's watching this podcast, maybe you are, maybe you're not. Let me tell you something. It's a different song when the music hits, bro. I don't care where you stand on CM Punk. When you have a man in your company that makes grown men cry, the tune will change when the music hits. Like, there was cats at Survivor Series that were saying that CM Punk chants were happening, and then people would boo. And then those same people that would boo pop when Cult of Personality hits.
He came back to home base.
Everybody,
You're not gonna boo somebody that came back to home base. Look at what happened with Cody.
absolutely. I agree. I agree. But I'm saying this all I'm saying is that you can't judge where people stand on the wrestler just because cats get on Twitter and they fire off on 140 characters or less.
Twitter's not
Because guess
real.
what?
They need
Those
to shut the
same people
fuck
that's
up.
complaining are the same people's buying the t-shirt. If Punk
Yup.
if Punk wasn't profitable and Punk wasn't vibey, why is he a top seller in two companies, one from which he just got fired from?
That's embarrassing. Is that on purpose? Like, why would you keep his merch up?
I don't. Maybe he owns the rights to that design or his name, image, and likeness.
That's
That's probably the
embarrassing.
case. That's
You have a
probably the
main
case.
champion. He's been holding that belt for a long time. The fact that he's not outselling Punk by now is crazy.
But the
Craziness.
You
fact,
want an MJF shirt? That's what you want?
I don't want no MJF shirt.
Man,
And like again, he's from Long Island. I should want to represent him. I still don't want an MJF shirt. But
he ain't from Hempstead.
huh?
He ain't representing.
I like.
He ain't from Hempstead.
What are you talking about? He
It's a
definitely
fact.
did. Didn't he graduate from some school out here
Creator
in
Pro.
Hicksville or some shit?
Creator.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
he did. I think he graduated from Creator Pro.
You're
But even
correct.
if, right, it's like, even if all this stuff is true, it's like, once again, like, y'all need to stop looking at these cats' opinions, and you need to start looking at the numbers, because that's what matters.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
You think Tony Khan's
Huh?
regretting his decision?
I think so.
No,
No?
I don't think he regret because years of consistent growth. He's like, all right, I'm about to bounce back.
That could be
I
true.
mean, we kind of
Ooh,
staggering
but
onto a topic that we're moving on,
I was about to say
later
we're about
on.
to move on because right after
Mark in the face.
CM Punk, right after Punk debuted WWE, all the video views shattered, all that, whatever. After all of that, Fightful had reported that Bryan Danielson was revealed as the head of the disciplinary committee that terminated CM Punk from All Elite Wrestling.
You
I
shaking
have
your
my
head, Banks?
opinions. I have my opinions, but I want y'all to
Nah, I
go
need to know
first.
why he's shaking his head.
Man, I used to look up to y'all niggas. Remember Idols versus Rivals with Rick Ross?
Yes, sir.
Rather you than me? That's all it is, man. I used to look up to y'all, bro. I seen Punk saying about the dragon.
Hmm.
Bro, remember ROH? We was oh, now you snitching on me? Be on, bro. Judah. What's it called? Judah? There we go.
Judas, yeah.
Judas, bro. Backstabbing me, man. All good. But hey, but if Daniel Bryan ain't on it, I got to put it. I'm gonna get you back to the E, bro. Cause I might come back for one eye.
Mo, what do you think?
I like said in previous times in the podcast that I feel like Daniel Bryan's the perfect like leader for AEW just because he's a veteran. But he's not too old. He's not like from Jericho's era. But he's a veteran enough per se. He's kind of like in the same category, sort of, as CM Punk in my head, even though I know CM Punk came in beforehand in WWE than Daniel Bryan. But their come up, from my perception, was around the same time. That being said, with Daniel Bryan, you never like come across hearing him with drama. You never hear him complaining. He's always just kind of doing the right thing. He does what's best for business, and he gives people the best damn good match. He's just your guy. So I part of me doesn't want to believe it, but it makes logical sense that he would do this just because he's very logical. He's the logical based man at all times. And he probably was thinking about what was in the best interest of like the morale backstage. And backstage, there's obviously a lot of tension.
Mhm.
Punk's a hothead. He flies off the mouth and says what he says in that exact moment. And allegedly, it got to a point where he got somewhat physical with Tony, whether it was just a shove. Um, Daniel probably thought, all right, well, if that's where we're at right now, and he feels like it's getting to this point where he wants to be physical back, even though it's technically not his fault because Jack Perry did start it, and the Elite technically did start it physically. He's probably just like, all right, Punk is too reactive, and not everyone's mixing well with him. Let's just try to move forward with the company without him. We got other good stars that we could probably try to put in his seat. I don't think it's the best business decision, but if you're looking from a morale standpoint, I could totally see Daniel Bryan doing that because Daniel Bryan doesn't strike me as a scumbag. Unfortunately, when it comes to the wrestling business, you do have to think a little bit selfishly and like a scumbag. You do. You
Mm.
know, you're going to have to make some people unhappy to do what's best for business. And sometimes that takes taking somebody that everyone hates and putting them in the driver's seat because that person knows how to put asses in seats, sorry, plural. And that is Punk. That is Punk. That being said, I don't disagree too much with Daniel's opinion because I see where he's coming from. But from a business standpoint, Punk is all they had. But that's Tony's fault, and I blame nobody but Tony because he didn't establish other people as hard as he did CM Punk. Maybe MJF, but he didn't really he put all his eggs in one basket, and that's where you fuck up as a businessman. So this is a learning experience for him. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. But Brian, if he made that decision, I can't say it was a bad call, but it was a bad call in terms of what AEW is going to do for the next for the rest of the year, or what they're going to do to challenge WWE going into WrestleMania. That's just my take. But I'm gonna pass over to you, Jordan. What do you think?
So I had to find the statement just to kind of see if what was reported was in alignment with the statement that was released on September 2nd by Tony Khan.
Mm.
So here's the full statement. Let me just click on this real quick. Not now. All Elite Wrestling has terminated the wrestler and employment agreements between Phillip Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause effective immediately. The termination was confirmed today by Tony Khan, CEO, general manager, and head of creative of AEW. Termination follows a week-long internal investigation of an incident occurring backstage at AEW All in London on Sunday, August 27th. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee met and later convened with outside legal counsel before making a unanimous recommendation to Khan that CM Punk be terminated with cause. So I looked that over and I read that over to say that everything kind of looks to be in alignment. It looks as if Khan had multiple kind of consultants, and it just seems to be that Brian Danielson was one of those consultants, right? One of the things that I've always said, especially over the past year, ever since I guess CM Punk's first incident, was I feel like Tony kind of stepped up the infrastructure and the order within AEW by employing people who were producers or employing people who could be mentors and coaches. It's interesting now because it seems like AEW is WWE-ifying their company as WWE is AEW-ifying their company. And I'll break it down in this way. It seems like AEW is trying to improve on the order and the structure, whereas WWE is trying to loosen their grip on creative control so that girls like Jade Cargill and guys like Cody Rhodes can look at going to WWE as a viable option. And it's more of looked at as a creative collaboration as opposed to a creative dictatorship that was kind of ran by Vince McMahon at one point in time. Um, as far as Brian Danielson's decision, was it sound? Yes, because of just the vibe in the locker room and stuff like that. Do I think it was the best business decision? No, but if you're going off of vibes, like Mo said, Danielson kind of did his thing. I'm just very curious as to why this is being leaked now. Like, this statement was released on September 2nd, 2023. They could have leaked that Brian was a part of this committee a week after, a month after, even 2 months after, right? They could have talked about this earlier in the month. Why is it that when CM Punk has a well-received arrival at the competing company, why is it now that Brian Danielson's name is being put
He
on
out
the
the door.
forefront?
He's
Huh?
out the door. What do you mean? He's on his
Who
retirement run. What you mean?
out the door? I mean, yes. Simultaneously, I mean, he was on broadcast this past week on Dynamite saying that he was going to be involved in All in 2024. And on
Okay, but
top of
they
that,
didn't
Tony,
name drop. They didn't name drop AEW earlier on. So I feel like for them, if they want to get a little bit of just like attention, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, well we're the whole reason why he's there." So thank guys. That's all that it
but
is.
it could be. I just find it suspicious in the sense that, like, you waited until a positive reaction was generated from Punk's kind of
They
going to
want to take
WWE
credit
to say
for
something.
it.
That makes sense then. Now that that's kind of put into perspective, that makes sense. But I don't know. I just think that this is just, once again, I think sound decision making from Brian Danielson. I just think that it's very, very interesting timing that they put this out now. But I'm not going to dig a little bit deeper. Oh, I will say this because I actually meant to say it the first time. WWE is the red button of pro wrestling. There is a lyric Drake put out for all the dogs.
Not
He put
Dre.
out a he said there was a lyric that he put out. He said, "If I press this red button, dog, everybody getting heaven gated. If I press this
I
red button, like, it's over, it's up."
I'm not
And I'll
taking
put this
Drake
into
seriously. Pick somebody
I'm
else.
putting this in, but hold on, I'm gonna put this into some perspective for you.
Nicki Minaj.
I'm gonna put this into perspective for you, right? I'm gonna put this into some perspective for you. It is TV rights season for WWE, right? Their deal with the USA Network is expiring. They have CM Punk, they have Cody Rhodes, they have Jade Cargill. In addition to
Mhm.
retaining Roman Reigns, in addition to retaining Seth Rollins, in addition to successfully being able to contract and facilitate celebrity talent like Bad Bunny, like the US champion Logan Paul. WWE is going into 2024 and they're going to secure a bag. But let me also run this by you.
Yeah.
Do you want to know who's been interested in WWE's TV rights deal? Warner Brothers Discovery,
Mm.
the same network that hosts AEW, the same network that Tony is leaning on for funding, for partnerships, for this multi year, multi platform deal. All WWE, if this is true, all that WWE has to say to all that WWE has to say to Warner Brothers, oh, you want us? We want exclusivity.
Mm.
If you want us, we can't be on the same network as AEW. And by the way, we have CM Punk. By the way, we have Cody Rhodes. By the way, we have Jade. So, you figure that out. And I think that is just such a genius move because this whole time, Tony it's a war between Tony and Nick, in my opinion, not Tony and Hunter, not Tony and Vince. It's Tony and Nick. And they keep going tit for tat, and Tony doing a little bit of petty this, and Nick is doing a little bit of petty that. Nick Khan is putting WWE in a position to do the ultimate tit for tat. Meaning, if you try slapping my face one more time, I'm punching you in the mouth and you're not getting up. So you could throw shots if you want to. You could do this attendance record thing if you want to. Because if I press this red button, it's up. It's up. That's all I had to say about that. But I want to know how.
Wait, I
What
have
do
one
you
more
say?
comment. Do
Go
you
ahead.
think that if they acquire Sasha Banks at this point, meaning that they took Cody, Jade, and now CM Punk back, do you think Mercedes could save this? Or it's just they're far gone? It's a wrap.
I don't think AEW is far gone. I think that they still have a very, very deep talent roster, and I think that they are on the brink of something incredibly special with Swerve. But they need to not play around. They need to not play around with Swerve. They need to not play around with the talent that they do have that is super valuable to them. But I just think that they, once again, don't like, what's at your disposal. You know who the fans want to be at the top. Do what y'all got to do. I don't think it's over for AEW. They're just in a very, very difficult position because they gave their competitor money. But moving past that, the most important thing, the second, what's more important than what's now is what's next. You have what's next in your locker room. Just don't be stupid. But
Okay.
that's that. But moving on. So speaking of WWE, speaking of AEW, we're gonna hop back over to WWE just in a little bit because according to SE Scoops, WWE's average attendance, and this is actually pre CM Punk, WWE's average attendance is the highest it's been since the Attitude Era. Why do y'all think that is? Why is WWE's attendance so high compared to where it was a couple years ago?
Hmm.
You got people you can look at. That's all it is. Like, dude, it's somebody for everybody over here. As far as the age demographic as well, something for everybody. That's really it. You got good storytelling, and I mean, when you got a dude, I call him, PTO chief, but I like him. I'm a Roman Reigns mark, but he is PTO chief.
That's a fact.
8 million sitting at the crib is not bad, but when you got somebody like that, people want to see of all ages and demographics. Bianca Belair, and then now with damage control, it's just that's why it's just like, all right, we got to go see this in person.
Yeah. Mo, what do you think?
Um, I agree with that. I feel like for me as a viewer when I watch AEW, there's only certain segments that I care about. Whereas with WWE, although there are some flat segments there, there's still like a mystery that I kind of want to chase. That makes me want to tune into what they got going on. And I do agree with Banks's point about how there is a lot to, reflect and see like who you could relate to and stuff like that, but I feel like they just got more over there in WWE where it's just like, all right, I need to chase the story to see what they're going to unravel here because they got a seed here, they got a seed here, they got a seed here. I need to know what they're going to eventually do, and it's just it's more, it's building. So for me personally, I it could be just a natural business dip with AEW where people just flocking over there to see what's going on and what's hot. But I really think that who they've been signing has a lot to do with it and the mystery of like it's up in the air on who's going where. So I want to say that. I mean, not for nothing. They've been teasing Punk for a minute. Like he didn't directly say that he was coming or not coming. They put up a report on purpose saying he wasn't coming, but as soon as I saw that report, I'm like, he definitely showing up. And they've been teasing him, and the fact they've just been teasing him subtly, and he has this insane fan base that he has, I just feel like irregardless, it was going to help out the ratings and they knew what they was doing. So I do want to say it's a bit of marketing, and I do want to say it has to do with the signings that they've been having. I don't think that it was just off of natural causes. But what do you think?
I think it's kind of what Banks said, and I'll piggyback off of what he said. I mean, it's we in wrestling we don't talk about it as much, but we don't talk about it as much in the current context. But sex still sells. Sex appeal sells, and people will attach more credibility to things that have a more, I should say, a bigger sex appeal attached to them. And by sex appeal, all I mean is just desirability, right? Got some desirable people that are on WWE television on the men's side and on the women's side. Obviously, we talked about Bianca Belair. Rhea Ripley is another one on the men's side. We have Roman Reigns, right? But we're not even talking about just the different aspects of the card. Obviously, you have Roman Reigns, you have Cody Rhodes, you have Jey Uso, you have Santos Escobar. Like, I be bringing Santos's name up to some women wrestling fans, and cats be melting. Like, these are good looking people. You know what I mean? Like, these are good looking people, well spoken, well dressed, and on top of that, they can go in the ring. So I feel like the sex appeal that WWE offers and the diversity of talent is definitely helping them as far as bringing in numbers. I also feel like the Bloodline storyline and that segueing into the Judgment Day being what it is a very very big part of the reason why attendance has jumped, especially within the past 18 months. If it's must see TV, it's must see in person. And I feel like anytime we've seen a Bloodline storyline segment with a major turning point, it's served as a moment or as a marker. And the only time that experience can be heightened in value beyond TV is if you were to see it in person. I think that when you create great storylines in wrestling, people are more inclined to see it in person. I'm more inclined to go to Madison Square Garden to see what happens because I already know there's going to be a match that happens. What's going to happen after it? What's going to happen before it? I want to be there for it. So when you create stories that are riveting, that have very, very clear markers and important moments, people are going to want to be there for it. In addition to the fact that there's just a sex appeal attached to it. But that's like just like my reasoning. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. I heavily agree with that. But I want to know what everybody else feels about attendance in WWE being the highest it's been since the Attitude Era. But we're gonna move on. Paying back over to AEW, it was recently announced that All Elite Wrestling has signed Will Ospreay. As you know, he was rumored to be a free agent at the beginning of 2024, but New Japan allowed him to Um, sign his contract with AEW. Is this a game changer for AEW? Do you think that this does anything for the company? Will Ospreay being there?
I don't know. I feel like I
Go ahead before I say
guess.
something.
Well, I like Will Ospreay. I really do. I feel like he's a great performer. I think he's a great promo. I do feel like sometimes when I watch him in AEW, although he fits in, I still look at him as being the bigger fish in the pond. I almost feel like he's a little overqualified to be over there, but match style wise, he would get more out of being over there. So I feel like in my head, I don't know why, I get like Seth Rollins vibes. I feel like he'll be AEW's Seth Rollins almost that you could build around. Um, and I do see there's some good feuds that you could get out of Will Osprey, but for some reason, with the way they just been handling other people that came from New Japan, I don't know why I
Ooh.
don't entirely believe in that he'll be like their biggest investment. I feel like every time they get somebody that I feel like is a great signing, I feel like they're not doing as much as I wanted them to do with that person. They're not established the way I wanted them to be established, and they end up just blending in with the rest of the roster. I'm not sure if that's on purpose or if they just don't know how to book people or they're trying to be fair. Is it equal opportunity over there? I don't know. But it's like I'm happy for him because I know the matches are going to eat, but it's just like he deserves to be up there, like
Mm.
up there. I want to see him up there with like MJF and Swerve in them. Like he needs to be like a main event star and rightfully so. So I think it's a good move, but I feel like if Tony Khan wants to try to like make up for everything that's been happening and all the L's he's been taking, please book Osprey correctly. Please make correct moves with Osprey because you could do so much with him and build your company around someone like him. Like he's an
Mm.
international star, in my personal opinion. I feel like Banks is side eyeing me almost because like he doesn't feel that way. I feel judged over here actually. But I'm gonna ask, how do you feel about this? I feel like he's about to eat me up, y'all.
Couple of things. Number one, I would creator.
Not the ocean
That's
spray.
the
What
first
is
thing.
wrong with you? What? Where do you get these names from?
That's
Ocean spray is nuts.
You don't
uh,
like the V trigger?
now when people don't know how to tuck their head, oh,
Okay, that's fair. But go on.
so it's just like they had one of my favorite matches this year from the first match that they had earlier this year. That's one of my favorite matches this year. But it's just the point of, dude, you just said you hurt. You see Kenny Omega been hurt, y'all beefing still. So you about to go over here so you can do hip hop, hip hop. You could have went over there. You could have went to your baby, did some Cochise type music. You feel me? Some Berkio. Y'all get me? You ain't got to do rickety rap. You could have went over there and did some mumble rap. Now you want to go over here and do hip hop, and get yourself hurt, and then probably not get shown that.
Mm.
So that's on you, bro. Like if you ever hear this, I don't know what language. I don't even know what language. I don't know how to translate it in Australia. Whatever you say.
Not.
Not Australian,
Flying. Get on the
bro.
like,
I was gonna say it's interesting that you kind of compare it to like the lyrical miracle rap because I mean I feel like that's what he's doing. Um, I feel like Will Osprey, like you said, is a great pro wrestler. He's a great worker. Um, I also feel like Will got the best deal because I feel like this gives him more flexibility. He can do his full time AEW thing. He said that he wanted to do stuff in TNA. Obviously, this deal will allow him to do so. I'm pretty sure he's going to want to do Rev Pro stuff and some New Japan stuff. This will probably allow him to do that. But I'm eager to see how Banks said how this translates over to an American audience. More specifically, is he able to successfully brand himself and is he able to position himself so that he can be a legit superstar, meaning he sells out arenas, meaning he moves merch. We talked about it earlier with CM Punk. This man has the top t-shirts in two different companies. Can Will Ospreay have a top t-shirt in AEW? Can he have a top hoodie? Can he be the guy that fills UBS Arena, Madison Square Garden, Crypto on behalf of AEW? These are things that are left up in the air. I don't know if he has done it yet. I don't know if he can do it. We've seen him perform in front of big crowds. Obviously, him versus Chris Jericho at All In this past year. Obviously, they set an attendance record at Wembley Stadium, right? So we can't take that away from him. But there's a difference between you being a match on the card and you being the franchise player. Can AEW get rings if Will Ospreay is the franchise player? And I think that that is something that has to be discussed or that has to be discovered. Banks says no, but we're gonna see about that. I want to know how everybody else feels about this, about Will Ospreay. Um, Let us know in the comments below. We're almost done with this show, y'all. Um, and to be honest, that was the last segment of the show. However, about an hour or so before the show, Ric Flair posted something on Instagram and I wanted to kind of get everyone's consensus on it. All right. So he posted up a picture of him and Sting. Sting, for those of you who are unaware, is currently on his retirement tour. It was announced on Dynamite that his last match will be in Greensboro, North Carolina, AEW Revolution. And that Ric Flair is by his side through all this. He puts on Instagram, I am so tired of hearing all this negativity. I don't need to work and I don't need the money. Can't I simply enjoy being by my dear friend Stinger's side for the next few months without so much hatred? I know I'm old, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy life. I've earned the right to do whatever I want, and I'm exactly where I want to be. I appreciate everything, Tony Khan. I appreciate everything, Tony Khan, but I'm more than willing to walk away if I'm embarrassing you and your company. All I can say is that I'm sorry. We are getting a bunch of different comments from a bunch of different guys. Obviously, Steve Stone Cold was one of them. He says, "Rick, I enjoy watching you do all the things you do, and you're always having fun. Keep doing you, and that's the bottom line." We have Kevin Nash. Besides the fact that you've earned the right, you wouldn't be there if it wasn't drawing fans. You always bring a smile to my face. Uh, and there's a bunch of other wrestlers who have a bunch of other comments, but I wanted to know y'all opinion. Um, Considering that the role of Ric Flair is to be the manager of Stinger as he comes to the end of his career, should Ric Flair be in AEW or no?
I guess I'll go first. My thing with Ric Flair is just that like he's not like cognitively there.
Hmm.
And it almost gives off like he's going through, I can't even say a midlife crisis because he's like at the tail end of his life and we just don't know when, that
Hmm.
bell's gonna hit. But it just feels like with him, like he doesn't know what to do with himself because he made like wrestling his whole identity. So he's just
Mm,
going to go on this retirement tour that it's just implied. It's like a retirement tour for him where he's just gonna hit up every single promotion possible on the way out, and whatever happens, happens because he doesn't know how to just like exist without wrestling. So
mm,
it's cringe. Quite frankly, I don't know a single person in 2023 that's a current modern day wrestling fan that's axing or concerned about Ric Flair. Like I love what he
mm,
did in WWE back then, and I tolerated what he even did in Impact, but it's just like he's kind of like tarnishing his legacy.
mm,
Um, and he's not needed. He's not needed. He doesn't add any value to the company. I feel like Tony Khan just feels bad, and he's like a mark. So it's just like he gets excited and he wants to just like do something for these people, just to just say that, oh, I had this person on my payroll before or some shit. Like I feel like it just makes him feel good. So he's just letting him go ahead and do this, and it's just sad. To me, it's
mm,
just sad. I don't want to see him. I don't think any of the new fans want to see him. I don't think the older fans actually want to see him. They want to remember. They want to treat Rick the same way we remember the best version of Shawn Michaels when he still had that ponytail.
mm,
That's the way I feel about it. We want to remember you in the best image that you had on the way out. We don't want to remember none of this. No one's going to be talking about this. And I don't think he gets that. Because, like I said, he doesn't know how to exist without wrestling. That's just who he is. I understand that wrestling's like an amplification of your I just stuttered on that word. Amplification of of your personality. But it just feels like um he just really doesn't know how to detach his work life from his actual life. It's a little bit sad. I feel like
mm.
at this point, just be a dad, support your daughter and your son in law, and just play in the background. You do not need a role in wrestling, bro. Like, you're done. Pack it up. You did enough. You did more than enough. Don't nobody want to see this shit. But what do you guys think about it?
Hey man, God need to go ahead and shut down Space Mountain.
Yeah. Mm. Ah, yeah. Nah, you good. I was gonna say I to kind of piggyback over what both of y'all was saying. I don't think it's a matter of Ric Flair embarrassing the company. I don't think it's a matter of Ric Flair embarrassing AEW as much as it is. We have gathered so much information about Ric Flair through all the retirement tours, all of the documentaries. We know how much wrestling, like Mo said, we know how much wrestling is a part of Ric's life. We also know that there is a pattern in which Rick can't seem to stay away from it. And so when you have a pattern that shows that you're not able to detach your personhood from your profession, that there may be something deeper going on. I think anybody who's a wrestling fan understands how important Ric Flair is. 16-time world champion. Like, if we're being honest, this man has had like a 20-year retirement tour between Evolution and now. Like, he's at like the retirement tour has been fruitful already, right? Like, it's already been, it was fruitful 20 years ago. He's done so much for the business that he could have stopped 20 years ago and he could have been completely fine. But I think that we're in much deeper waters now. And then on top of that, obviously over the past at least 2 to 3 years, we've seen him have a heart attack. We've seen how his health problems have come to the surface. And I think that it's not as much about embarrassment as much as it is legitimate concern. Like, bro, is you good? Like, are you healthy? Are you taking care of yourself? I get it. Like, you love wrestling and you want to be a part of X, Y, and Z, but like you have more days, behind you than you do ahead of you. And because of that, it's so important to just slow down, put that health into perspective, understand that you're not the man that you once were, and that it's okay. But I think that wrestling as a whole isn't trying to say that Ric Flair is embarrassing, but it is a legit concern. It's like you seeing a family member that's unwell, and he shows up or she shows up at Thanksgiving dinner with the family, and he's acting all belligerent and all out of control and all crazy, and it's like, oh my god, like, this is going to be a lot to deal with. But more than that, are you okay? Like, are you good? Are you healthy, bro? And I think that that's kind of the way the wrestling community sees Ric Flair. So I don't think it's a matter of embarrassment. And if this is what Sting wants on the way out, I feel like Sting is one of those guys who has been the utmost professional. You don't really hear a lot of bad things about Sting. If he wants Flair one more time, go ahead. But I think this is more so about making sure that Rick is healthy, considering all that we know about Ric Flair. But that's pretty much like the biggest concerns. But let us know how you feel about Ric Flair in the comments. Should he be in AEW or not? And that concludes our show for the week. Thank y'all so much for tuning in once again. Once again, next 316 Space NXT deadline, December 8th. We'll see y'all there, but we'll see y'all next week before we get into deadline. So thanks for tuning in once again, and we'll see you next week. Woo!